Oh, we have a violin also. My God. Wow. Special. Yeah, sit on the chair. Otherwise, you'll look really odd. The only one sitting on the floor. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Bolo. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Bolo. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Gaur Pimanande. Jayam Vishupad Paramahamsa Pri Vrajgacharya Stotra Satta Sri Simad His Divine Grace Srila Bhai Charan Arvind Bhakti Raghava Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandaviti Founder Charyas Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharyas Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem se gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Sri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Sri Dwarka Dham Ki Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Sri Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Sri Mayapur Chandradev Mandir Ki Gangamayi Jumanmayi Ki Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai Shri Krishna Balaram Ki Jai Shri Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Taksuranmiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyacha Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Would like to request everyone to kindly fold your hands and repeat the following two short mantras. The first one, oops, is this on? Yeah. It's not on. My backdrop is on, right? Hey.
It's okay. I will bring it.
Now it's on. Now we can close some of the lights, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the first mantra. You may kindly repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And you may kindly also repeat the second mantra coming up here. Om Surabhyai Namah. Om Surabhyai Namah. Om Surabhyai Namah. Mukham karoti vasalam pangum langayate girim. Yad kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Vinataranam. Yad kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Vinataranam. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Do we need all these lights closed? I can barely see my audience. I mean, if somehow we can get a similar screen, but I don't know. Otherwise, no, I guess you have to close one or two lines. It's all the same, yeah. Okay. our eyes will adjust to one another. Yeah. So first of all, I would like to thank all of you for attending today's program. In particular, I want to thank the organizers for inviting us for this evening's program. Okay. I think so. Yeah. It is not the first time I come to Niagara Falls, but it's the first time I come to Niagara. Because I'm from Ontario, and of course, Niagara Falls is world famous. And so I was very pleased, I was very happy to hear and to know that there are devotees and that you have a center here. Congratulations to all of you. Yeah. It is very much in keeping with the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, every town and village. And also it is very much in keeping with the plan and the mission of our founder, Acharya, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. I have given us title, as you can see here, Make Vrindavan Villages. And in the following, whatever, 30 minutes, 45 minutes that we have, because I do want to leave a bit of time, at least 10 minutes or even 15 minutes for possible comments or questions. It is a very important, not only important, but essential aspect of the mission of the Lord. In one lecture, actually, Prabhupada explains how the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the mission of Krishna is actually the same, ultimately to bring us back to the lotus feet of Krishna, to bring us back to our eternal abode in the spiritual world. We are presently not in our natural home, this material world. And the saving grace, of course, for those who are fortunate, all of us who are sitting here are fortunate because we have come in contact with this knowledge, Vedic knowledge, that Srila Prabhupada has nicely coined as Krishna consciousness, because ultimately the perfection of all spirituality is to bring us to that platform of developing consciousness, awareness, and ultimately relationship, isn't it, with Godhead, whom we know in our, what is called Guru Parampara, as a person, and that person being, of course, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. While we are here in the material world, even after coming in contact with Krishna consciousness, anyone who's been practicing, whether it's 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, or even 10 years and beyond, we all understand how the forces of material nature are very, very strong. And what Krishna introduces and explains in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, although it is described as ABC of spiritual life, it is not so easy to really put into practice and to attain what is meant to be the full stage of detachment and renunciation. And of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has introduced this very special process of the chanting of the holy name, which we understand from our acharyas is a yuga dharma for the sage of Kali. And that is why we are known as Hare Krishna people. And Srila Prabhupada introduced this chanting in America and throughout the entire world, as we know. So this whole aspect of spiritual life, of devotional life, devotional life is in many ways a specialized and also described as postgraduate study, right? Bhagavad Gita is ABC in terms of spiritual life, giving us the basics. We're not the body. Then we have a graduate study, Srimad Bhagavatam, that goes into more details and introduces to us the very attractive and sweet pastimes of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan. Srimad Bhagavatam culminates in those very confidential pastimes of Vrindavan. So there is preliminary, basic knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, then there is graduate study, then there is postgraduate study that we find, of course, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That same Lord Krishna appears in the material world. Soon after Lord Krishna completes his pastimes, and he is giving the same teachings, but he is demonstrating how to actually live as a devotee, how to develop pure love of Krishna. And generally, this is the area, or this is what we are especially focusing on, how to develop, isn't it? How to awaken our bhakti, how to engage in devotional service. And of course, because it is the age of Kali, it is not so easy. So this evening I want to highlight, I'm not introducing anything new, because there's nothing new. All of the knowledge that we need to know is in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. But Srila Prabhupada spoke about one aspect of Krishna consciousness that many of us find it difficult to actually understand. And as this first slide is indicating at the bottom, Prabhupada spoke about 50% of his unfulfilled mission in terms of Daiva Varnashrama Dharma. I know that the word and the whole, we could say maybe even ideology of Varnashrama for a number of our own devotees, and for many people in India, and for that matter for many people around the world, because of the negativity that the whole concept has been connected with since a very long period of time. You know, when we hear the word Varnashram, we think about caste system, and we know all of the abuses and exploitation, etc. However, we should never forget, and this is something that in the last maybe 200 years since the advent of one of our foremost acharyas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The special contribution of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was to actually redirect the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which had gone off track actually for quite a long period of time. And you might be amazed to hear that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur felt that one of the important ways in which to redress and to redirect the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to introduce and emphasize this aspect of Varnashrama Dharma. So, I will be speaking about some key aspects that hopefully by the end of this relatively short presentation can give all of us a more, because every time I speak about this subject matter, I also get a little bit more understanding. That's the nature actually of spiritual subject topics. The more we discuss, then Krishna, by his grace and his mercy, gradually reveals and helps us to understand more clearly. There are two aspects. Actually, there's a list here of different communities from different countries where we have devotees who are in a very systematic way endeavoring to introduce this dimension, this aspect of Krishna consciousness that we call Daiva Varnashrama Dharma. We will not go into that, I'm just mentioning some of them. But what we will do is look at some of the key aspects which, again, hopefully will help us get a more clear understanding of why our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, it is not only Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur who made many important statements regarding this aspect of spiritual life, this aspect of Krishna consciousness, but also Srila Prabhupada, even before coming to North America, spoke about these matters. So there are 6 parts to this presentation, and we'll just spend a relatively short time on each one of them. The first point to try and understand is that Sanatana Dharma, we are all followers of Sanatana Dharma. We are referred to or known as Sanatanists, those who follow Sanatana Dharma, needs to be more clearly understood on 2 levels, therefore 2 features, and we'll explain what this is. Secondly, we will also briefly emphasize and speak about the agrarian nature of the Vedic culture. Vedic culture being agrarian-based culture. Agrarian-based culture means village-based, rural-based. Number 3, we'll look at the concept of the 3 gifts of nature that are an integral part of our Vedic culture. Number 4, we will have a short glimpse of this concept of Chaturvidya, which is largely unknown actually in modern day society. And 5, something that is also less known, Srila Prabhupada's very clear vision way back when he was still a householder of how to introduce and spread the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And finally, time allowing, we will hear a few of the statements by some of our Vaishnavacharyas. Let's begin with the first, Sanatana Dharma. For all of us who are in this material world, because we are in the material world, we need to understand these 2 levels. It's actually quite simple, at least theoretically, to grasp, to understand, but it is not so easy to put into practice. This is a quotation from Bhagavad Gita, explaining about the first feature of Sanatana Dharma being Varnashrama Dharma, the material aspect, or the material dharma. Prabhupada explains how on the bodily plane, the Swadharma is called Varnashrama Dharma, or man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. And Prabhupada goes on to explain how human civilization begins from the stage of Varnashrama Dharma. You might have read or heard in some of the lectures given by Srila Prabhupada how if one is not following or part of the system that Krishna created of Varnashrama, one is not considered a human being. So this is on one level. Then naturally on the spiritual level, we can refer to that level as being Jaiva Dharma, the Dharma, the nature, the duties of the Jiva, of the living entity. And that is nicely summarized by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a very well-known instruction, Jiver Surabhyai Krishna Nityadas. We are the eternal servants of the Lord. In our present modern day society, actually these two levels of dharma are absent, are missing, are not known by the vast majority of people. And within our society of devotees, we know something about the spiritual level. We are practicing, we are endeavoring to practice, isn't it, every day? Devotional service, we are chanting the holy name, we are attending arati, performing puja, performing so many different activities in line with what our acharyas and what Shastra describe. But we are much less, even though all of that knowledge is accessible to us, we are much less in a practical way, I would say, demonstrating the aspect of Varnashrama Dharma. We'll come back to that a little bit later on. We go to the second feature, or second aspect, how Vedic culture is meant to be primarily understood and lived actually in practical ways as an agrarian culture. And we can easily understand this when we remember and give some thought, meditate upon the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared in Vrindavan not only to display or demonstrate, the spiritual dimension, not only to reveal the different levels of rasa and to exhibit the highest form of devotional service, which is, of course, nicely described in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But Lord Krishna also, along with all the Brajavasis, their lifestyle, which is, as we know, connected with village life, with cows, with nature, with agriculture, is also meant to show us that this is the more natural way of living. So Vrindavan, therefore, is that place where these two aspects of dharma are ideally shown and demonstrated. And the third aspect has to do with what one of our foremost acharyas, Grandfather Bhishma Dev, explains about. He speaks about 3 gifts of nature. I wasn't really aware of this aspect until, I wasn't aware that Grandfather Bhishma Dev was stressing this aspect in the Mahabharata when he is on his bed of arrows instructing Yudhishthira Maharaj. But in the context of ideal Vedic culture, in the context of ideal family life, in the context of ideal prescribed duties, these 3 gifts of nature become apparent, and they, in many ways, they become self-evident. Grandfather Bhishma Dev explains that these 3 gifts of nature that I'll list in a few seconds have been given to all of us, to humanity, so that we can more easily, more naturally meet our different necessities of life and simultaneously develop our spiritual consciousness. And keeping in mind about Vedic culture being an agrarian or village-based culture, we will immediately be able to understand how these 3 gifts of nature in the present-day modern society, which is primarily a very urban-oriented society, isn't it? Modernization is promoting urbanization. Modernization is promoting industrialization, isn't it? Modernization is promoting ever-increasing material well-being. And also modern civilization is promoting, in many ways, atheism, because we are simply focused. And therefore, modern civilization has disconnected us with these 3 gifts of nature. And you'll understand immediately the first of these gifts of nature We find so many references and descriptions in our Shastra as to how no society can properly, on the long run, no society can properly develop or be successful without these three gifts of nature. And the first one, of course, is Mother Cow. There are many explanations, many prayers, many wonderful prayers actually in the Shastra, describing how the presence of cows is vital and actually essential in society for both the material as well as the spiritual well-being. This especially we can see in the context of village. Any village that, because that used to be the situation, isn't it? If any of you are from village, or your parents or grandparents from village, you will know, you will remember how, not so long ago, going back 50 years or so, people used to have, families, practically every family used to have many cows. And it is said that when a village will no longer maintain cows or bulls, that village will not be able to remain a village for very long. That is a whole topic in itself. Let's say the glories of Mother Surabhi. Surabhi is, we chant this mantra, Om Surabhyai Namah, because Surabhi is the original cow, actually, in the spiritual world. The second gift of nature, which is directly, intimately connected actually with cows, naturally, is land, nature. Mother Nature. We refer to nature as Mother Nature. We also refer to cows as Mother Cow, our mother, because both cows and nature, land, provide for our daily necessities of life. And the third component, as explained by Grandfather Bhishmadev, is knowledge, cultivation of knowledge. Knowledge both of a material nature as well as a spiritual nature. Unless we have these three components in our lives, we will not be able so easily, or we could practically say we will not be able to achieve the happiness that we are seeking. We will not be able to achieve the health that we're also, everyone likes to be healthy. If we're not healthy, we cannot think properly, we cannot work. And also prosperous. So these three components help individuals and society to become happy, to become healthy, and also to become wealthy. We can just think about, the residents of Vrindavan. The residents of Vrindavan were happy, were all healthy, because they were eating food they were growing themselves. They were keeping, Nanda Maharaj had 9 lakhs cows, 900,000 cows. And many of these cows, you didn't even have to milk them. Milk was automatically dripping from their milk bag. They were so happy, the cows were happy because they were cared for with love and devotion. Not only were the residents of Vrindavan opulent in terms of spiritual emancipation, very advanced. I mean, they're the most intimate associates of the Lord, but they were also materially opulent, isn't it? So these three aspects, if we look at what is taking place in modern day society, more and more people are living away from villages. More and more, that means more and more people are living or disconnected with cows, disconnected with the land. And therefore, although it's quite challenging in certain countries, and it's also challenging when we live in cities, there are ways to begin actually reconnecting. You see, Srila Prabhupada very clearly, we could say echoed what other acharyas also instructed and what is there in the Shastra. Why does Krishna descend in the material world? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya saduskritam dharma samstapanarthaya, to reestablish the principles of dharma. And all of our acharyas, they preach the same as well. But we need to understand what those principles of dharma are, isn't it? And therefore, at least on a small scale, and by the end of this presentation, I will give you some references where, if this is so important, and if we are disconnected, well then, how we can begin to reintroduce some of these aspects, isn't it, in our daily lives. So we have some basic information on this as well. Let us go to so this is the reference from the Mahabharata regarding Grandfather Bhishma Dev's statement. The other two slides are very important as well. The concept of Chaturvidya. Unknown, as I mentioned earlier, to modern day society, and practically speaking, unknown to our own devotees, which is not a good sign. These four Vedic sciences help us become qualified to actually live and establish and maintain an ideal society. Many years ago, Srila Prabhupada gave many instructions. One of the important instructions he gave was that in all of our centers, we have a center now in Niagara, in all of our centers we should immediately, I was going to say as soon as possible, but Prabhupada said immediately. Prabhupada himself used the word immediately 52 years ago, 1974. Immediately we should establish a Varnashram college so that we can gradually introduce our devotees in these basic concepts. And the Varnashram college is meant to be based on these four Vidyas, which are four sciences. They're meant to become actually the four faculties. What are those four faculties or four sciences? The first one in Sanskrit is known as Anvikshiki, the science of philosophy. Of course, all of us, we hear from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, so we already are introduced to various aspects, but it goes quite deeply in the subject matter. The other three sciences are much less known or practiced by devotees. The second is known as Trayi, the science of education, the science of Vedic education, which of course when we think of education, Vedic education, we think of Gurukula. But how many Gurukulas do we have? Not many. But that is only one aspect of Vedic education, because Gurukula is primarily for those who are brahmanas, young boys who have the qualities, qualifications, Brahminical qualifications. That means that the rest of the population doesn't go to Gurukul, doesn't receive formal education. That's a whole big topic, of course, in itself. So what kind of education are they meant to receive? That we need to understand. The kind of education that the majority of young boys, well, is the kind of education that Krishna and Balaram received. One may think, or one may say, that, well, you know, Krishna and Balaram, when they were in Vrindavan, they never went to Gurukul, and it's true. They only went to Gurukul when they left Vrindavan, when they, again, reunited with Vasudeva and Devaki, who told them, listen, you know, you are our son. You're Kshatriya. You have to get proper training, education. So Gurukul actually is for both Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. But when Krishna and Balaram are in Vrindavan, they're playing the role of Vaishya, isn't it? They're looking after cows. Prabhupada explains that Krishna showed by example. How? How did Krishna show by example? By playing the flute. Because that's how one attracts the cows. That's how one pleases the cows. And Balaram, he showed by example by carrying his haladar. He's known as haladar, his plow, because he's in charge of agriculture. And Prabhupada explains that actually daily, when these two boys, Krishna and Balaram, along with their friends, would go out in the various forests of Vrindavan, their activities, their daily activities, Prabhupada states in a very important purport, 10.11.37. 10.11.37, you can look at it later on, that this is Vedic education. Initially, we have difficulty relating to that because if we don't see a building with classrooms, if we don't see school, then we think, only then we think about education. The same thing with, you know, looking after cows, which all the residents of Vrindavan in some way or other were connected. That is described as Vedic economy. Again, a whole major topic that in modern day society we have basically forgotten. You know? And that takes us to the third of the four Vedic sciences, Dandaniti, the science of politics, governance, how to organize, maintain, protect a village or any society, any community for that matter, isn't it? Including a nation, including when we are well versed in that science, then, you know, somebody like Yudhishthira Maharaj can become not only a king but an emperor of the whole world, which was the situation at that time. And the fourth, we touched on it briefly, is called Varta, the science of economics, which is summarized in our Shastra as Krishi Goraksha Vanijam. And that Prabhupada explains in the 7th canto, there are 5 chapters, the 5 last chapters of canto number 7 is a very wonderful presentation by Narada Muni on the topic actually of Varnashrama Dharma. And Srila Prabhupada makes a number of very important statements in the various purports in those chapters. One of them being that actually we have forgotten. Householders have forgotten. The vast majority of our householders have forgotten that the main prescribed duty for the vast majority of householders is meant to be connected with agriculture. Again, it's something that we cannot immediately maybe understand or relate to, but hopefully this will help us to begin thinking along those terms, because whatever is given in Shastra, whatever is presented to us by our acharyas, we have to give it proper attention. Now we go to the fifth aspect, which has to do with how Srila Prabhupada envisioned. It's like, Lord Chaitanya gave many important instructions, and one very well known, that is especially known to those from India, because it is addressing persons from India. Bharat bhumite hoila manusya janamazar janma sartha kari kora para upakar. So in the last portion of this instruction, janma sartha kari, that is one of two missions of life. Janma sartha kari means individually, personally, we should take seriously the practice of spiritual life, and in our case, the practice of devotional life, isn't it? As instructed by Srila Prabhupada and our previous acharyas. This is one mission of life. If we don't have that mission, if we don't take that mission of life seriously, we will not be successful. The second mission, which is part of this instruction, Janma sartha kari kora para upakar, performing the highest welfare activity. And Prabhupada actually delineated what are meant to be those activities. And I'm just summarizing them here. In his Back to Godhead magazine, way back in 1956, Prabhupada spoke about these 4 phases. It's like, we need to know where we're going with our life. Simultaneously, we need to know where this mission of Krishna consciousness is meant to take us while we are still here in the material world. Prabhupada spoke about 4 movements. I'll just mention them briefly. Sankirtan movement, referring to introducing the chanting of the holy name and simultaneously distributing transcendental literatures. Secondly, Prabhupada spoke about temple worship movement, having a place where people can come and be introduced to Krishna, isn't it? And to associate with devotees. Number 3, spiritual initiation movement, giving an opportunity for people to receive training, education, to become more convinced and committed to the mission of life, isn't it? And then the 4th one, which is evading us largely, which is more difficult to grasp, because the first 3 we find especially connected with temples, isn't it? In all of our temples, when we come together, we chant the holy name, we read books, study, we worship the Lord, isn't it? We have different courses, training, congregational development, for youth, for children, etc. But the 4th one, Prabhupada called it classless society movement, referring to Varnashrama. Classless society in the sense that everyone, regardless of the Varna or the ashram in which one is situated, is aiming for the same goal, which is to serve Krishna. Krishna is the center. When Krishna is the center, then there will naturally be harmony. That is the difference between what our acharyas refer to as Daiva Varnashrama Dharma and Asurik Varnashrama. What is known, what people have known, and what is existing today largely is Asurik Varnashrama, where Krishna is not in the center, where there is exploitation, where there is undue competition. So it's very important for all of us to actually understand how Varnashrama, Prabhupada translates Varnashrama as divine culture. It is an integral part of Sanatana Dharma, as we tried to explain earlier. And therefore, I'll just finish on by showing, well, we don't have time to go to references. There's so many different references. I'm just going through them quickly to conclude with one important book, which is containing actually most of the instructions given by Srila Prabhupada. It's called Speaking About Varnashrama. And where is it? Okay, here it is, yes. I highly recommend and I humbly request that you avail of this book. As a matter of fact, we have this book in digital form for you. We have a digital card where you can get the easily download this link that will give you access to not only this book, but other books that are speaking on the subject matter of Varnashrama. I think we can put the lights on right now because we have only just a few minutes and take any possible questions or comments that might be there. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Everyone's still here? Questions? Yes? Microphone. You can use mine.
Yeah. Thank you for your nice lecture and explaining the Varnashram system. My question is, when in Bhagavad Gita, like Krishna said, that our Varnas are not based on birth, like not based on my surname or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
It's based on nature and quality. Right? So how does one reflect on it? Like how does one understand what is their Varna?
Good,
And
yes.
after that, like after we discover what is our Varna, what should we do?
Yes. Once you discover your Varna, you'll know what to do. And how to discover one's Varna, the more we live in a natural environment, the more we live as Krishna ordained us to live, which is what we're not doing now. But the more we do that, more easily our nature will become known to us and to others as well. That's why the whole modern setup is making it very difficult for us to know who we are. So therefore the importance of reconnecting with a more, our acharyas also give specific ways by which to identify and know our Varna. One of them is connected with when a child is born, doing his astrological chart, right? So there are specific ways, but what will especially be helpful is to be working in a more natural environment, and I would say especially in a more rural type of lifestyle, right? More could be said, but I'll just keep it short. Any other comment or question? Yes. You have to speak right in the mic.
Hello, Hare Krishna,
Yes.
Maharajji, and Hare Krishna, everyone.
Yes.
While discussing the gifts of nature, you made a point, the first one about cows.
Yes.
That if a country or if a region or if an area protects its cows and take care of its cows, they progress and they progress materials.
Yes.
In a material way.
Yes.
So my question is, the entire West and the entire world, except 7-8 states in North India, everyone eats cow, right? Especially in the West, everyone eats I mean, they eat it. So, but they are far ahead materialistically than in compared to India. So, why is that?
So your point is that there are places in India, is it?
No, my point is that in the entire West, they consume cow. Right?
The entire, in the West?
In the West.
Yeah, yeah.
But they are like far ahead of in material nature than in comparison to India, and it doesn't even come close.
Okay. Yes. Well, we have to look at things very closely. This is part of the illusory energy of Maya. Yes, in the West, there's so much of material development, and people are not living, not caring for cows as well. So it may seem like, we could say, contradictory. But if we look, number one, at the quality of life, if we look at the environment, right now, you may or may not be aware, because we have forsaken cows and the more natural way of farming, we are presently in the Western world especially, and it pretty well has been introduced in India and in Asian countries as well. I mean, I think all over the world. We refer to agriculture as agro-business. We have replaced the bulls with machines, tractors, and other similar machines. We have introduced chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides. Do you know that on the planet right now, because of these unnatural, artificial activities, we have practically destroyed our soil. 70% of the topsoil practically on the planet is practically destroyed. The land is not able to produce food as it did produce before. This is one, let's say, one aspect. Yes, externally, so much of so-called material development is there, but look at all of the major global problems that we have created. So, in many ways, because in India we are also not, or other countries as well, unless people follow what is prescribed in what is called Shastra, what is described by saintly persons who are knowledgeable not only of spiritual subject matters, but are also very knowledgeable about material sciences, the science of agriculture, for example, the science of properly caring for cows, then our whole planet at this point is practically on the verge of collapse and destruction, due largely to the fact that we are not knowing about or not following these principles. So it appears wonderful in so many ways. You know, we drive around in wonderful cars, we live in beautiful homes, we have nice clothes, etc. like that. We have, you know, a lot of money in our bank account, most of us. But who's happy? Who's healthy? One of the major problems in the world today is mental disease. So that we as human beings, by living this unnatural, artificial lifestyle, not only are we destroying our environment, we are also destroying, the more we destroy the environment, we destroy ourselves, because we depend on the environment, we depend on nature, we depend on food. Today, food, any food that you eat, that you get on the market, that you don't grow yourself, naturally, all food is devoid of between 50 and 70% of its natural nutrients. The food we are eating is not healthy for us. I mean, I could go on giving different examples, but this is a false kind of message. And we need to see beyond, you know, the facade that is being shown and lived in modern day society. Modern day society is an extremely destructive society. It is described by our sages, by our founder Acharya, as a killing civilization. So my humble request actually to those who think that we have something good going on in the Western countries, to read some of these literatures to find out what is, and to go directly and analyze and look behind what's happening. You know that 50% of children born today in the USA don't have a father? Means they will not grow up in a natural family setting. Means they will grow up emotionally disturbed. And then we wonder why we have such incidents that are happening more and more. All of a sudden, somebody pulls a gun and kills 30 people in a school, or whatever, isn't it? So when we abandon and don't understand some of these basic concepts, this is the kind of consequences. You look at all of the very complex and I mean the whole world is in a very deplorable and precarious condition. We're on the verge of World War III, as you may know. Some people say it's already started. We could say more, but I think I'll just stop here for now. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Can we have a big round of applause for Maharaj? So as Maharaj said, there's a wealth of knowledge on Varnashram Dharma that's there in these books that Maharaj just presented. There is a digital card at the time of Prasadam, Prabhu is showing that. And at the time of Prasadam, we'll basically hand it over to all of you, right? We'll just, we'll just take it around the tables and you all can scan the QR code to get access to these wonderful, wonderful books, to get more information on these topics.
Thank you.
Next, we would like to thank all of the Matajis who made the wonderful feast today. As I call out their names, request all of you to acknowledge them by chanting a loud Hari Bol. So dal was made by Nikunja, Sitarani Devi Dasi. Hari Bol. Sabji by Rajeshwari Mataji. Hari Bol. Rotis by Nikunja and Marita Mataji. Hari Bol. Rice by Tulsi Mood Prabhu Neha Mataji. Hari Bol. Salad by Pooja Mataji. Hari Bol. Cake by Narayani Mataji. Hari Bol. Dessert by Ranita Mataji. Hari Bol. Fruit custard by Vandana Mataji. Hari Bol. And papad by Deepti Mataji. Hari Bol. We would also like to thank, we have one sponsor today. So today's feast is sponsored by Vandana Mataji. Hari Bol. Big round of applause for Vandana Mataji. If you would like, there are a lot of other sponsorship opportunities. As you know, right? There are so many things for which we need sponsorships. They are all listed over there. Request you all to please take a look. And if you would like to render any kind of services or would like to sponsor anything, please contact one of our volunteers. A few more announcements. On March 29th, we are celebrating Ram Navami festival. So already we have started some of the marketing campaign about the Ram Navami festival. March 29th, Sunday, we are celebrating Ram Navami. Request all of you to come here in large numbers, bring all of your family and friends. It will be a nice celebration with a nice feast and some cultural presentation as well.